This is Beyond a Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Gary Smith.
Well, welcome, GPS. How are you this fine Sunday morning at the altar of Bard?
I am great, Mark. Happy Cinco de Mayo and happy Sunday to you as well.
Yes, this is a day when more tequila will be consumed internationally than virtually any other day, is my humble belief. You know, May
with a
5th,
good friend of ours doing a large portion of that for the city of Las Vegas, I would assume.
Yes, right. I'm sure she's doing her part. You know, so that you understand, May the 5th is the day when the most tequila is consumed. October the 5th is apparently, I'm told, the most popular birthday because it's the exact mean of the gestation period after New Year's Eve. So the 5ths are always a big day.
Yes, they are.
You know, speaking of big days, California, we had a very interesting case that you pointed out, and if you want to put it up on the screen, or do you have a clip of it, or do you have just the synopsis of the decision? It's in regards to detentions and whether cops can detain you.
Yeah, absolutely. I pulled a Instagram post from Los Angeles Magazine that I believe does a good job at summarizing it. So I'll throw that up on the screen. And it reads in part, the California Supreme Court has significantly altered police procedures by ruling that police cannot detain individuals solely because they avoid contact. The landmark judgment reshapes the legal landscape for officers across the state and has wide-ranging implications for future litigation, particularly where claims of racial profiling arise.
Yeah, so it's always been kind of an irritation when you have, normally this comes about, at least from a criminal standpoint, where you're doing a motion to suppress, a 1538.5 in a courtroom, and the cop will say furtive movement, or I asked and the person tried to get away from me and didn't want to engage and things like that. You do not have to engage. I mean, I've often said it's a very fine line as to why or when and what you do. I mean, I was thinking about this bizarrely in connection with a call I got last week. A lawyer friend of mine said his wife had been taken into custody at a local retail place. And I said, what do you mean she's taken into custody? Of the police there? He says, no, the private security guards. So I said, are you talking to her? Yeah, merger on. And I said, ask them under what authority they're holding you. And she did. And the guy tells her basically to shut up. I said, they have no authority to just detain you. They're a private security company. Just leave. And if they touch you, then we'll call the police. And sure enough, she left and they didn't touch her. They were trained well enough to know you couldn't do it. Here, this is a similar situation when a cop, and it's not similar, but if a cop tells you you want to have an encounter, and the cop is telling you, I want to see your ID, I want to see this or that, and you ask, what am I doing or why? I mean, you just can't take people for no reason, basically, is what this opinion is saying, and then force them into an encounter that you normally will spiral out of control.
So I guess as a layman, I'm wondering, to what extent does this carry? Does this mean that as long as I am, sober and not doing anything that could be perceived to be a violation of the law, if a police officer walks up to me and asks me a question, I just don't have to respond and can turn around and walk away?
Arguably, yes. I mean, the reason I hate to give advice on this is I don't want somebody to mistake some.
Yeah, correct. I'm not looking for necessarily legal advice. I'm just trying to understand, because it's hard to imagine as a citizen that if a police officer tries to engage you and you turn around and walk away without responding at all verbally to their question, that's going to go well. So I'm trying to figure out.
You're going to hope the body cam is on, because you may get what I often refer to as contempt of cop.
Right.
But
I've seen a lot of celebration about this and about how it's going to be, such a landmark for citizens. And I have a hard time figuring out, it seems the old adage that I've heard a million times is like, a cop follows you for 50 miles, he's going to find something you did wrong type of thing. So it's like, I have a hard time understanding.
My father used to say there's more guys in the joint because of a broken taillight than any other offense.
Exactly. So it's just, I don't, in practice, I'm not sure how I understand what the ruling means, and intellectually and arguably, which is the word you used when you were answering my question, I understand that it will have implications in terms of the court, but I just have a hard time seeing a real change in policing as a result of this.
I might want to, maybe next week, if this thing gathers any traction, we will bring on either current law enforcement or next law enforcement. We'll talk about the nuances of this, because it's been a controversy within the law. It's only kind of become blown up, so to speak, post 2020 and things of that nature. But it's always been an issue. Furtive movements, high crime neighborhood, those kinds of catchphrases that are used in order to justify probable cause have gone back and forth. And so this is I don't think it's overstating that it is an important decision that's going to have wide-ranging ramifications.
Absolutely. Well, we'll keep an eye on it. And as you said, maybe we'll look for some guests that might have a unique insight to bring to the audience. Other news, there certainly has been, the Trump trial going on. I don't feel that it's necessarily been getting the media coverage that it might have had there been a visual component to it. I mean, the news is certainly there every day if you want it, but it doesn't feel like something that is there if you're not looking for it necessarily, given the monumentous nature of the fact that this is the first time a former U.S. president has been tried for a crime.
And found now in contempt.
Yes. And found now in contempt. And it's found in contempt, but, with a financial penalty that is, certainly relatively inconsequential, one would think.
Well, but I'm going to go back. You've heard this argument by me a million times. This idea of finding a criminal defendant in contempt during a trial where the person, especially in this case, but I come to it from a completely different angle. My angle is usually, if you're like me and you've represented notorious and infamous people who have been the subject of much public ridicule and scrutiny. The idea of fighting back, the idea that you can just be uniformly criticized, the idea that you're supposed to just sit there and you're supposed to be gagged, so to speak, has really turned inside out what the gag order originally was supposed to be. You probably could cite the U.S. Supreme Court case, because you've heard me say it a million times, Shepard v. Maxwell, the whole rationale for the gag orders, which have been and these ideas that a criminal defendant cannot respond, has been turned inside out. I have a real problem with the idea of a criminal defendant being told that they can't do anything. Now, you magnify that with somebody who is the presumptive nominee of the party that is running in an election in less than 7 months. To me, it's just outrageous that a state court judge in a criminal prosecution that is brought in at this particular time period, and they're pulling somebody off of the campaign trail, is then being told, I'm going to fine you for your speech. I think I know it's not popular in my bubble, but it's outrageous. Frankly, it shouldn't stand. It should be unconstitutional. Having said all of that, you've got a couple of clips that I would like to comment on.
Yeah, absolutely. We had some analysis over the latter part of this week from the Alex Wagner program, I believe. So let's check out the first of two clips that we have on that.
This was all done because of the election, and that's what this testimony is about.
That's the essence of it.
So attacking him over there's an extortion plot, he was trying to make him look dirty,
right?
Which maybe landed some small bits of embarrassment for this lawyer. And it's true, this was a seedy type of work that he's peddling his clients' sexual liaisons for jobs, for money. Right. So it's seedy, but it doesn't land any legal blows.
It doesn't absolve Donald Trump for potentially what the DA's office is alleging. I mean,
that's Duncan Levin. Duncan is an ex-DA prosecutor, and I don't know him, but we've crossed paths on various cases. I couldn't disagree more with that analysis. I know Keith Davidson. I've represented clients who have been on the receiving end of a Keith Davidson attempt to negotiate a payment. The idea that you're just going to say, and I know it's the popular thing to say, I get that it's the popular thing to say, is to embrace this prosecutorial theory that it was done for the election. You've got, I think, more credibility in the analysis if you say, which the prosecution, to their credit, is trying to say, that there were mixed motives. I think they're going to ask for a jury instruction that says there were mixed motives.
Sure. I mean, I don't think that any fair-minded person would not go along with that, because it's such a, the contents of the things that we're trying to be silenced can be ascribed to so many different things. And to say that it was only done because of one thing, pick your choice, by the way. Not maybe if you're not doing election, pick, marital fidelity, pick damage to the family.
By the way, it's just reputation control.
Exactly.
Part of the reason that people have PR people on retainer in the entertainment industry, which is where Donald Trump was coming from, he was a TV reality show star. There is a whole cottage industry of people who manage the reputation. You can ascribe it to the election. Well, you can also say about the election, the election just enhances the fishbowl that you're swimming in to try to control the damage. And so it's such a strained legal theory, and it's such a absolute, I think, stretch to just say that this is for election fraud. But having said that, I get it. You're faced, if you're a defendant, you're faced with what the prosecutor brought. If you keep going, you'll see I've got some other comments about some of this commentary.
Trump for potentially what the DA's office is alleging. I mean, when you talk about Michael Cohen's, I find it comic, the motivations they ascribe to Michael Cohen. They say that, this is the defense I'm talking about, that Donald Trump didn't have anything to do with this, as Michael Cohen was acting independently, and that the reason he was taking out a home equity loan to pay off an adult film star before the election was because he wanted Trump to win so he could go to Washington and get a job. And that
by the way, that's true. And they elicited sworn testimony later on. I don't know if they mentioned it here. That is something he said. Michael Cohen testified, or somebody else testified. That's what Michael Cohen told me. So why is that? It's just, I understand you want to do an analysis, but don't ignore evidence that was already in this case.
Yeah, and I believe they go on to read some of the transcript of that testimony later in this clip. So let's keep watching.
And get a job. And that the defense brings up a piece of prosecution evidence, which is a back and forth. It is this is an excerpt from Keith Davidson talking to prosecution, quoting Michael Cohen, saying something to the effect of, "Jesus Christ, can you effing believe I'm not going to Washington after everything that I've done for that effing guy? I can't believe I'm not going to Washington. I've saved that guy's butt," it's a family program, "so many times you don't even know." That's supposedly like the evidence. Michael Cohen, enraged that he's not going to be the Attorney General of the United States, is somehow evidence that Michael Cohen was doing this of his own accord.
Well, by the way, am I in the twilight zone?
I don't know.
That came from Keith Davidson, who said that's what Michael Cohen told me. And she wants to, this so-called reporter or journalist, whatever, TV personality, wants to say, I like the fact that he's up there saying that this happened, but I don't like what he ascribes as the real-time motivation and words.
And the way she chuckles through reading of testimony from a transcript, like, what is that supposed to, what game are you trying to play here? What do you think your viewers are? They better be pretty deep into TikTok if you think that just chuckling through that is going to change the contents of it. Like, I don't know what you're playing at here.
the whole thing is just mind-boggling to me. The way it's analyzed, I can't even watch. I watch for 45 seconds and then I kind of tape it. I send, for people who want to know, I send it to Gary to see if he can find so that it looks better when you play it. But it's really hard to watch because the analysis is so vacuous, it's so idiotic, and doesn't bear any resemblance to, and the people don't understand what they're saying, makes no sense internally, and isn't consistent.
Well, it's funny you say 45 seconds because that is exactly how much we have left of this clip. So let's watch the end of it here.
Right. But also in that same conversation, Keith Davidson testified that there was a comment that Michael Cohen said that, and I'm not even being reimbursed for this payment that I made to Stormy Daniels, which Keith Davidson, he did not say Stormy Daniels, but Keith Davidson testified that he understood it to be a reference to the payment that Cohen made to Daniels. And so even there is this, idea that there was an understanding between Cohen and Trump that Cohen would be reimbursed. And so we had all of these different moments today in which it was showing that Trump had knowledge of the hush money deals, and specifically the hush money deal with Stormy Daniels, which is what forms the kind of core aspect of these charges.
Yeah.
You just completely just basically encapsulated what reasonable doubt is, and then is dismissive that he had knowledge. Well, you could learn after the fact. You could also say, I wanted him to take care of these, the old expression, bimbo eruption, but I didn't tell him, go take out a credit line. I didn't tell him, disguise it when you're billing me, blah, 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 because you want to get the money back. I mean, the whole thing is ludicrous. It's mind-boggling to me that this is a criminal case 7 months out from the election.
Yeah. And just the analysis of it. I mean, I'll give her props for yes-anding, but then it seems like they think that they're saying one thing, but in reality, they're highlighting the exact opposite thing.
The argument makes absolutely no sense. I'd love to see you make that argument in a courtroom. You can tear that apart, limb from limb, so to speak.
Yeah, it would be absolutely hilarious to watch you sit on the other side as somebody tried to do that and have the opportunity to tear it apart, because that's just bananas. It's, like I said, I think that this would be covered a whole lot differently if there actually was TV footage of some of this stuff. But
it's one of the reasons I've come full circle. I used to think it damps it down, and that's the smart thing to do. I don't think that's the case. I think people have to see it. I think they have to realize what is actually happening, because when you get this kind of filter that is just, even in its own 45-second, 90-second clip, is so self-contradictory, is so ridiculous logically and persuasively or argumentative that it would be better if it was not filtered, because this just doesn't even comport with it. It doesn't even hang internally, the logic.
Right. And yeah, I think, on top of the fact that it would change everyone's view if they were able to see it, these people wouldn't have to vamp for so long. I wonder if it's the fact that they have to fill 48 minutes and they don't have any footage to run, that they're just tripping all over themselves, because it's absolutely ridiculous. It's three people who are seemingly intelligent all sitting there tripping over themselves.
You've got three highly educated, very, Duncan is a first-rate lawyer, and the correspondent, I don't know, but she appears to be highly intelligent and articulate, and yet because the ideology blinds you so much, you can't even see just how internally inconsistent the arguments you're making are.
Yeah, Anna Bauer from Lawfire Courts correspondent was the third correspondent there. So just to give her a shout out. I
wanted to end with a little 30-second clip from Saturday Night Live. Do you have that handy?
I do. Look at that. Almost like we planned for this.
Yeah, almost like it, right? Let's, given all of the college protests, and we haven't waded in yet, but I just thought that this was a kind of a unique take. And let's end with this, Gary.
Yep, absolutely.
I think it's just great, it's wonderful. Nothing makes me prouder than young people using their voices to fight for what they believe in.
Wow, that's very encouraging.
Alphonse, your daughter must feel so supported when she's out there.
What's that now? when whose daughter is out there?
At the protest.
No, man. You bugging. Alexis Vanessa Roberts better have her butt in class. Let me find out she in one of them damn tents instead of the dorm room that I pay for.
Wait, I thought you were in favor of the student protest.
Brother, man, I am supportive of y'all's kids protesting. Not my kids. My kids know better. Shoot, Alexis Vanessa ain't crazy.
Well, Alphonse, your daughter attends Columbia. What do you think about the students that took over Hamilton Hall?
That's good for y'all's kids. But they ain't mine. That's all I'm saying. They ain't my kids. You feel me, Ryan?
Yes, I feel you, Alphonse.
I think we can end on that, Gary.
Yeah.
That is,
It's 4 minutes long. That's the cold open from Saturday Night Live this weekend. For anyone who is just listening, the gentleman's wearing a Columbia sweatshirt, talking about his daughter, and I encourage everyone to go watch the full 4 minutes. I had actually seen it before you sent it to me, Mark, and it's very, very funny. So go check that out. It's definitely a heavy subject, and SNL has been for a long time very, very skilled at turning something serious into something we can all laugh at. So go enjoy that and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Mark, happy Cinco de Mayo. Enjoy the Miami Grand Prix that I'm sure you won't be watching this afternoon, and take it easy on the tequila. I think that our friend in Vegas is probably taking care of it for the whole group.
drink for all of us. So thanks, Gary. Good to see you.
Thanks, Mark. You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Reasonable Doubt. Subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/Reasonable Doubt Podcast.